Hi guys, this is Hirosaki. This story is all about what if Naruto was the hope of the Senju clan. What if instead of Kushina being Naruto's mother, and through a trick of fate Naruto's mother was Tsunade after a drunken night with Minato in which Naruto becomes both the heir and hope of the Senju clan. Find out what life would be like now for Naruto. Before we start, kindly like and subscribe to this channel, and look over the description box for the author of this amazing storyline. Welcome aboard. Chapter 23: A Senju's Wrath. Hattori Mai. After her defeat at the hands of Naruto, Mai walked up the catwalk and headed for her team who were waiting for her. Care to explain yourself, Mai? Asked the team leader and Sensei Kandachi. Naruto-kun was much stronger than I anticipated, Mai answered simply. Naruto-kun? Repeated one of Mai's teammates. Is there a problem? Asked Mai as she turned to her teammate and frowned. Your orders were to kill Senju, not to make out with him, and then propose to him, said the genin. Agreed, your grandfather will not be pleased when he hears of your defeat, Mai stated Kandachi. You saw how skilled Naruto-kun was, stated Mai. Which makes your defeat and your actions after the fight all the more serious, responded Kandachi. My grandfather will understand, he knows our clan laws better than anyone, and he cannot deny that Naruto-kun and I would be a fitting match. If you ask me, you're trying to cover yourself, stated the other member of Mai's team. What did you just say? Asked Mai as she turned to her teammate and narrowed her eyes threateningly. You heard me, sneered the genin. You dropped that ball and failed your mission, and now you're trying to cover up your mistake by jumping Senju bones. Clearly, you're not as strong as you think you are. Maybe should just step aside and leave this mission to someone competent and who can actually do the job? But as soon as the genin said this, and before he could do anything, he suddenly found a kunai pointed at his neck and facing a very angry Mai. I suggest that you watch your mouth. Even on my worst day, I could kill trash like you with a simple flick of my wrist. That's enough, both of you. Rounded Kandachi, glared at both genin. We'll talk about this again later. Mai scoffed at this and then removed the kunai from the genin's neck, who started to rub his neck and look at the kunasehai nervously, as she glared coldly at him. Before she turned away and stared at the other end of the arena. Seeing this, Kandachi glared at the foolish genin, as he knew how strong Mai was, and she certainly didn't drop the ball. Naruto simply proved to be much more skilled than they expected him to be, which of course made things all the worse. Since if he was this skilled already, there was no doubt that he would become a formidable foe in the future. As he turned to Mai, he saw the young girl staring at Naruto at the opposite end of the arena, who was being treated for his injuries by his mother. This could complicate matters, thought Kandachi. With the Suna team. As Mai was conversing with her team, a certain red-haired Jinchuriki was staring at Naruto with a cold, bloodthirsty look in his eyes. Seeing this, Gaara's sensei and siblings began to worry, as they saw who he was staring at. Yes, mother, I hear you, you want his blood, and I will give it to you soon, very soon, I promise, thought the crazed Jinchuriki. I was afraid of this, thought a worried Temari. The preliminaries have barely even started, but because of the intensity of Senju's and that girl's battle, Gaara is already on the verge of losing control and going berserk. Crap, Gaara is already going psycho. If I'm going against him in these preliminaries, I'm quitting, plan or no plan, he'll probably kill me if I do fight him, thought the equally worried Kankuro. Damn it, I didn't think he'd actually defeat someone as skilled as Hanzo's granddaughter. It seems he's even stronger than we feared, thought Baki, before turned to look at his student Gaara. And if Gaara isn't able to contain himself, he'll going out of control, and will attack the boy and ruin everything. With Orochimaru. Kuku. Very impressive, Naruto-kun, very impressive indeed, thought Orochimaru, since he had been rather impressed with the fight. So much so that he was rather tempted to try and find a way to win Mai over to his side. But he quickly turned that idea down, since doing so would earn him some unwanted attention, or to be more precise, earn the ire of her grandfather Hanzo. Who was someone Orochimaru had no wish to go up against again, at least not without some assurances. With the Kumo team. Hey Hachibi, something up? Asked Killer Bee inside his mind as he could sense that there was something up with his Biju. Yes, I sense another one of the Biju in here, replied the Great Ox. No joke? Asked Killer Bee in surprise. No, I sense it too, responded the Nibi as the cat Biju joined the conversation, using the telepathy skill that all Biju had to communicate with one another. Which one is it? Yujito asked, as she looked around the genin teams who were from the villages that had Jinchuriki. It's Shikaku, I can practically feel his bloodlust, stated Hachibi. That means it's one of the Suna members, Yujito replied in her mind, where she looked at the Suna team, who were to her right at the opposite end of the catwalk they were on. Is it that guy with the gourd on his back and the slightly crazed look on his face? Asked Yujito, as she stared at Gaara. That would be my guess, since whenever Shikaku is sealed into its Jinchuriki, he eats away at his host's personality and influences him or her with his bloodlust behavior whenever his host sleeps. This leads his host to develop insomnia, causing them to slowly lose their sanity, answered Hachibi. Also, added the Nibi, I'm willing to bet that gourd on his back is full of sand, since Shikaku gives his host the ability to control sand. Meaning if you have to face him, kitten, you should be careful, as Shikaku's hosts are extremely dangerous when they use their sand. At hearing this, Yujito just nodded and heeded her Biju's advice, knowing that the monster cat wouldn't say something like that unless it was true. Soon enough, Yujito noticed that Gaara was fixated on something when she turned to the direction that Gaara was looking. She saw that the Suna Jinchuriki was staring at Naruto, who had just been treated by his mother and was seemingly being berated by her about something. Looks like Shikaku's host has his eye on your boyfriend, kitten, commented the Nibi. He's not my boyfriend, Nibi, I told you that already. Rounded Yujito angrily. Really, if that was true, kitten, then why did I sense the slight urge to tear that girl's face off when she started playing Twister with his mouth, answered the female Biju with an amused tone. This answer of course irked Yujito. I was angry because of the fact that she was kissing him in front of everyone so blatantly. Sure, it wasn't because she got to do it before you did? Purred the Nibi, knowing it would annoy her host further. I told you, I'm not attracted to Naruto. Yelled Yujito in her mind. I simply respect him as a rival and someone I want to fight and defeat. Well, that's how it starts, kitten. Then one day when you two are facing off against each other, you'll eventually get tangled up with one another, where your bodies would be pressed against each other and would be all hot, sweaty and sticky from fighting. Your clothes would be clinging tightly to your bodies, allowing you both to feel each other fully. Your faces would be so close together that you could feel each other's hot breath breathing on your faces, and you could feel each other's heartbeat beating faster and faster, until eventually you both can't help said Nibi. But before she could continue, Yujito suddenly started screaming in her mind. Shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, SSSHHUUTTTUUUPPPP. Screamed the now red-faced girl, who was starting to get mental images of her and Naruto together like that, thanks to Nibi's story. After which she started to grumble about her perverted horny cat demon. He, little kitty gotta all hotta bothered, oh yeah. She dreaming of eyes like the sky and hair like the sun, thought Killer Bee in rhymes as he joined in on the teasing. How many times do I have to tell you people? I don't think of Naruto that way. Hissed the furious Yujito inside her mind. Before she glanced over to her sensei, and you better watch it be sensei, or I swear I'll be having fired octopus and beef for dinner tonight. Alright, that's enough from all of you, spoke Hachibi, knowing he was going to have to be the adult here. Ah, come on Hachibi, we're just having little fun, said Nibi. Maybe, but we're moving away from the point of the matter, which is Shikaku, spoke Hachibi. You think the fool willa act the fool? Asked B in one of his bad rhymes. No, I don't believe so, since if we can sense him, Shikaku can certainly sense us, and as strong as he isn't stupid, he knows that he can't take us both on by himself. Although that doesn't go for his host, since as I said earlier, given the effect Shikaku has on his hosts, the boy may not be entirely in his right set of minds to begin with, and may attack us regardless, answered Hachibi. I doubt he will, stated Nibi, since like I told all of you earlier, his host seems to have his eye on Kitten's boyfriend over there. I told you he's not my boyfriend. Rounded Yujito. But do you think Naruto will be able to handle him? If he's not your boyfriend, then why are you worried about him? Asked the monster cat in amusement. I'm not, retorted and slightly red Yujito. It's just that if anyone is going to defeat him, it's me. Besides, if he kills or defeats Naruto, then our mission will have failed. Whatever helps you sleep at night, Kitten, but sooner or later you're going to have to face reality, replied Nibby, where before Yujito could respond to this she continued on. But I don't think you have to worry, your boyfriend there is pretty tough for a kid his age, and he was able to defeat you back when you used my power against him. Granted, you don't have the control you do now, and the Tsunade kid has probably been trained to use his power to a high degree. But your boyfriend has proven that he can handle himself, if that fight of his was any indication. Before Yujito could respond to Nibby's remarks on Naruto being her boyfriend, Hachibi interceded so to prevent another argument between Nibby and her host. I agree, given the skill the boy has shown already, I'm certain he can handle himself, and if he cannot, I'm certain his mother or some of the other Konoha shinobi will intervene and stop Shikaka's host, should he go too far. Besides, there is also that strange power that he seems to emanate, commented Hachibi. As like Nibby when they first met Naruto, he felt a strange yet familiar power coming from Naruto. Have either of you figured out what the power that you are sensing from him is? Asked Yujito inside her mind, remembering the Nibby mentioning it before. No, replied Nibby, but like I said last time, that power I'm sense feels strange yet familiar at the same time. It's also faint, as if it's being suppressed by some other power that is also somewhat familiar yet different at the same time. This of course did not sit well with Yujito, as she was never a big fan of mysteries, yet Naruto was an enigma, who she couldn't quite figure out fully. She always felt that there was more to Naruto than meets the eye, even after learning that he was Tsunade's son and the heir to the Senju clan. She still felt that there was still much more to Naruto than he was letting on, as if he was still hiding something from everyone. Leaving the question, who was Naruto really? With Sasuke. As Naruto was being treated for his injuries and being berated by his mother for having fangirls after him, a certain young Uchiha stared coldly at Naruto with a twig of jealousy and anger. Sasuke had of course been watching the battle with everyone else, and could not help but feel inferior when it was over. It was bad enough that he had lost to Naruto earlier on when he went out of control from Orochimaru's curse seal. But when he saw Naruto and Mai's fight, it made him feel even worse, as Mai's strength proved to rival even Naruto's, where Sasuke himself had to question his own chances, had he faced her, even if he was at 100%. The battle itself was comparable to even Kakashi and Zabuza's battle, where Mai used the Suryudan no Jutsu, water dragon bullet technique. She could even use multiple elemental ninjutsu and combine them, just like Naruto, as well as use one-handed hand seals like Haku. Yet despite his handicap, Naruto had defeated Mai without the aid of his chakra, and even somehow improved his Surashifu, wind-slash, technique, by making it more powerful. Damn it, what the hell is wrong with me? Am I doing something wrong? Thought Sasuke, as he tightened his hand into a fist in anger. Since like Mai and Naruto, he came from a clan of powerful shinobi, yet both of them were on a completely different level from him. Could it be because of who trained them? Sasuke thought further, as he stared at Tsunade, who was still berating Naruto over his fangirls, and Jiraiya, who was grinning his ass off. After which, Sasuke turned to look at Mai, who had admitted earlier on that she had been trained by her grandfather Hanzo, who according to Kushina was a legendary figure in the shinobi world, who defeated all three members of the Densetsu no Sannin, legendary three ninja, single-handedly back when they were in their prime, and gave them their title. Before he could think any further on the matter, he suddenly heard Kakashi speaking to him, telling him that he was up next. Seeing his name on the screen, Sasuke saw that he was indeed next, and nodded to Kakashi before walking down the arena. If you can win your match without having to rely on your chakra, Naruto, then so can I, the Uchiha thought as he walked down to face his opponent. With Team Guy. Sasuke was of course not that only one who was staring at Naruto. Not far from Naruto on the opposite side end of the catwalk, one Hyuga Neji was staring at the young blonde Senju. It seems my suspicions about you were indeed correct, Senju Naruto. You are more than you appear to be, and you may prove to be a challenge after all. At the same time, Neji's female teammate Tenten saw the Hyuga male staring at the Senju heir, and could already guess what her teammate was thinking. Ha! Last year, Hyuga Neji was the genin to beat, but this year, it's Senju Naruto. Yash! That battle was truly inspirational. The flames of youth are truly burning brightly in Naruto-kun and Mai-chan. Cried Lee excitedly, who was now eager to begin his own battle. How right you are, Lee, both of them are truly in the springtime of their youth. You two must keep training hard, so that your flames of youth may match theirs, declared Guy. Guy-sensei! Cried a teary-eyed Lee. Lee! Said an equally teary-eyed Guy, before the two of them hugged and a giant wave and sunset appeared in the background, after which Guy said, yes, this is youth. Guy-sensei! Lee! Guy-sensei! Lee! Guy-sensei! Lee! This of course continued for several more moments until Tenten had enough and yelled, will the both of you just shut up? After which she bashed both of them on their heads, slamming them onto the catwalk floor. Ending the accursed scene, much to the relief of everyone else, and leaving two very large lumps on the two youth freaks' heads. With Naruto. After being healed by his mother, and being warned of a very unpleased talk about what he has been doing for the past 6 months in Konoha, Naruto turned to his female sensei, who was speaking to him. So how are you feeling? All better now, kid? Kushina asked, as she smiled down at her student. Better than I was before. Oh, so you're telling us that you didn't like a hot young girl like her, sucking you dry? Asked Kushina with a shit-eating grin. That only grew when she saw Naruto and Hinata blush red and the annoyed looks on Ino's, Haku's, and Tsunade's faces. She also noticed that Kiba was looking at Naruto with some jealousy, no doubt wishing he had been in Naruto's shoes. I'm never going to hear the end of this, am I? Asked Naruto, even though he already knew the answer. Probably not, replied a grinning Kushina. Well, it certainly won't be something that will be forgotten anytime soon, remarked an amused Kakashi, where he chuckled slightly when he heard Naruto groan, and tried to hide his face in his arms as he leans against the railing. So, tell us, Naruto, you going take her up on her offer? As she is quite the looker, asked Kakashi with his traditional eye smile. You're enjoying this, aren't you? Naruto asked without raising his head, as he guessed this was payback from Kakashi for destroying his Ika book after their team test. Kakashi of course did not answer this and just continued to smile, which basically answered Naruto's question. Fortunately for Naruto though, the teasing quickly came to an end when Tsunade decided to intervene. As she didn't like them talking about Naruto and that tramp, Tsunade's new name for Mai, getting married, let alone the idea of it. Soon enough, the focus of everyone's attention turned from Naruto to Sasuke, where they proceeded to watch Sasuke's match against one of Kabuto's teammates. A genin named Akato Yoroi, who had the power to drain people of their chakra by touching them. The match was difficult enough for Sasuke, as like Naruto he was unable to using his chakra or move properly, thanks to Orochimaru's curse seal. Despite his handicap, Sasuke was eventually able to gain the upper hand, where he began to imitate some of Lee's moves. Showing that Naruto wasn't the only one that learned something from Sasuke's scuffle with Lee, but just when things were going his way. Sasuke's curse seal started acting up again, and stopped his body from moving, where it began to spread throughout his body. Seeing this, Naruto then yelled, "Is this all what the so-called mighty Uchiha clan is capable of? I expected better of you, team. Are you going to let that thing control you, or beat this guy?" Hoping that it would anger Sasuke enough to get him. Thankfully it did work and motivated Sasuke forced the curse markings back by sheer willpower, like Naruto, much to the surprise of many. After which he took Yoroi down with his Shuriken lion combo technique. After Sasuke had defeated Yoroi, Kakashi Shunshin, body flicker, down to Sasuke, and picked him up and brought him back to catwalk to rest. since forcing back the curse seal had taken a lot of him, added with all the injuries he took when he fought Yoroi. With the fight between Sasuke and Yoroi over and Yoroi being taken away by the medics, the screen once again activated and went through the different names. It eventually stopped at Aburame Shino versus Abumi Zaku. Seeing their names coming up, both boys walked down to the arena and faced off. When Shino saw Zaku's arm was in a sling from his encounter with Sasuke, he advised the Oto Genin to forfeit the match. Zaku naturally refused and instead attacked Shino with his one good arm. In attacking, Shino was given an opportunity to box in Zaku with bugs, forcing Zaku to choose between attacking him or attacking the bugs, leaving the other to attack Zaku from behind. Zaku chose to attack both, and pulled his other arm out of its sling, showing that he could in fact use both arms. Just as Zaku was about to blast the two opposing forces away, his arms detonated, where his right hand was blown off of his body, much to the horror of many like Sakura and Ino. As Zaku writhed, Shino revealed that the tubes in Zaku's arms had been filled with his bugs, causing the pressure of Zaku's attack to go outward when it couldn't escape. Soon after, Shino walked back up to his team, while Zaku was taken away by the medics, along with his now blown-off arm. When Hinata asked Tsunade if it was possible to reattach his arm, the female medic stated it was unlikely given the damage that was done. Naturally, when hearing this, Naruto couldn't help but slightly pity the Oto Genin, despite the fact he had once tried to kill him and his team. As the medics began the cleanup from the battle, Naruto noticed Tenten glancing at his mother every few seconds, as if trying to work up the courage to speak to her. Remember his promise to Tenten, Naruto called the bun-haired girl over. "Kachan, I'd like you to meet Tenten, she's been wanting to meet you for a long time." When Tsunade heard this, she raised her eyebrow in suspicion, and was curious if Tenten was another one of Naruto's fangirls. But before she could say anything, Naruto continued with his introduction. "In fact, you are her idol, and she wants to be just like you." As soon as Tsunade heard this, her suspicion quickly disappeared and smiled down at the young girl, who still looked embarrassed and nervous and didn't know what to say to her hero. "Well, I am quite flattered, it's very nice to meet you, Tenten-san," said Tsunade in a friendly tone, since she rather liked the idea of being the idol of young would-be Kanochis. "Hi, I'm very honored to meet you," Tsunade-sama answered the nervous Tenten, before Tsunade offered her hand, which she quickly took and shook it vigorously. Not believing that she was actually talking to and shaking hands with her idol, who was renowned as the strongest Kanochi in the shinobi world. Soon after, Zaku was taken away, and the arena was cleaned up, after which the screen once again went through several names until it stopped at Kankuro and Misumi Tsurugi, the last member of Kabuto's teammates. Like Shino's fight, this fight didn't last very long, in fact it was even quicker. When the fight first started, Misumi quickly wrapped himself around Kankuro's body, in a way that reminded Naruto too much of the way that Orochimaru held him. Once he wrapped himself around Kankuro, Misumi threatened to break Kankuro's neck if he did not forfeit. Much to people's surprise, Kankuro refused, so Misumi made good on his threat and killed Kankuro. But before Misumi's could be declared the victor, Kankuro's face began to crack and break, after which it was revealed that he was a puppet in disguise, while the real Kankuro was hiding where the puppet was supposed to be. After revealing himself, Kankuro quickly made his puppet grab hold of Misumi and brutally constrict him, breaking his bones, without giving Misumi a chance to surrender, which was something Naruto frowned on. With the match done and Misumi being taken away, the screen activated again, where it went through several names until it stopped at Karui vs Haruno Sakura. With Naruto. When Naruto saw the two names, he could only shake his head, knowing how this was going to end. Sadly, Sakura did not see this and believed this fight was a perfect chance to prove herself to Sasuke and show him that she was a strong kunoichi. She even asked him to watch her fight. Sasuke naturally just grunted where he leaned against the railing, as he was still worn out from his fight, despite Shizune healing his injuries at Kakashi's request. As Sakura walked down to face the Kumo Kanochi, Naruto suddenly spoke. She would be better off just giving up. Now Naruto, that's rather harsh, don't you think? Sakura has a chance of winning this fight, stated Kakashi. No, she doesn't, not against Karui, replied the Senju heir. Trust me, I know from past experiences that Karui is no weakling. If you're so sure she would lose, then why didn't you try and tell her to quit? Asked Yamato. Because she wouldn't believe me even if I told her, and besides this will be a good lesson to her, and make her realize how weak she really is. Naruto, not everyone can be as strong as you, Sasuke and Sai, and it is rather unfair to her to say that. Who's saying I'm comparing her to us? Come Kakashi-sensei, you know as well as I do, that compared to others out there, Sakura is weak. How many times have you, Sai, Sasuke or I, have had to save her or protect her? Because I can count quite a number of times, stated Naruto. Hell, she nearly got killed in the Forest of Death, as she wasn't even a challenge to the Oto genin that attacked her and Sasuke. If it wasn't for Bushy Brow over there, arriving in time to save her, both she and Sasuke would be dead now. So, trust me when I say, she will lose, and hopefully by the end of this match, she realize just how weak she really is and start training harder. Kakashi of course could not really argue with what Naruto was saying, since to be honest, he had a point. Sakura was indeed the weakest member of the team. Sure, she was quite intelligent, and had excellent control over Hi chakra, and was decent in traps. But when it came to physical skills, like hand-to-hand or weapons, she was average at the very best. Not to mention the girl's priority was on her looks and attracting Sasuke's attention, and not on her shinobi training. But even so, Kakashi wanted to have faith in his student and believed that she could rise to the challenge. Sadly though, Naruto's prediction came true. Karui easily defeated Sakura. In fact, the fight barely lasted a full 60 seconds. For as soon as Hayate had shouted begin, Karui charged forward and struck Sakura hard in the stomach, and with such force and speed that the pink-haired girl had little time to even try and block the punch. After the punch, Sakura bended over slightly, and was fighting hard not to throw up. She of course had little chance, for as soon she bended over, Karui continued with her beatdown, with a series of hard punches and kicks. Sakura of course tried to defend herself, but the pink-haired girl was no match for Karui's superior skill and speed. Soon after, Sakura was sent skidding across the ground, covered in several red marks, which would soon turn into bruises and spitting up some blood. Karui had shown the pink-haired no mercy. She even had been disgusted with how weak she was and stated that she was a disgrace to all real Kunoichi. Luckily though for Sakura, Hayate called the match and declared Karui the winner, after seeing that Sakura couldn't get up and was fighting to stay conscious, which she soon lost. Once Karui had been declared the winner, Kakashi Shunshin down to Sakura, and picked her up and brought her to Shizune, and asked her to treat his student. As Shizune treated Sakura for her injuries, Naruto could not help but wonder if the pink-haired girl knew how lucky she was. Since as bad as her injuries were now, they would be nothing if Karui had taken her sword out and fought with it. At the same time the screen lit up again, and went through the remaining names, where it eventually came to a stop at Yamanaka Ino vs Samui. With Naruto. When Naruto saw these names appear he could not help but sigh again, as like the previous match between Karui and Sakura, Naruto already knew the winner. Like Sakura, Ino did not notice Naruto sighing and believed this was a perfect chance to prove herself to her crush Naruto. As she walked by him, she asked Naruto to watch her fight, where Naruto replied that he would. Before she left, he was tempted to tell Ino not to fight Samui and to forfeit, but just as quickly, he decided not to. As soon as she left, he turned to look over at her sensei Asuma. Asuma-sensei, I suggest you get ready to go down there and bring Ino up, since this battle won't last very long. Aren't you being a little harsh, Naruto? I know Ino isn't exactly on par with some of the other girls here, like that my girl you fought. But she has made some good improvements over the past few months. Maybe so, but that won't be enough, not against someone like Samui-chan. Ino stands even less of a chance than Sakura did when she faced against Karui. Is she that strong? Asked Choji with some worry for his teammate. She's stronger. I fought her once a while back and trust me, she is not someone you should take lightly. More than likely, she is even stronger than she was when I last fought her. If you knew all this, why didn't you stop Ino and tell her not to fight that girl? She would have listened to you, said Shikamaru. I didn't say anything, since I'm hoping that she will learn from this defeat and see that she needs to get her priorities straight as a kunoichi and realize that she needs to get stronger. All of you know as well as I do that as long as Ino and Sakura are in their fangirl set of minds, they'll be nothing more than a hindrance to their team. Isn't there an easier way, since I know Ino can be loud and troublesome, but I don't think she deserves a beatdown like the one that other girl gave Sakura, stated Shikamaru. Look, I'll admit it's not perfect, but it's the best way, and I won't deny that I underestimated Karui's vicious streak and brutality, and she may have gone a little far with Sakura. But this won't happen with Ino, as unlike Karui, Samui-chan is cool, collective, and level-headed. She won't defeat Ino the way Karui defeated Sakura. She'll make it as quick and as painless as possible, while revealing as little of her skill as possible. But still, don't you think that's still going a little far? Asked Choji. I agree with Naruto, stated Tsunade suddenly, gaining most people's attention. Sometimes a hard dose of reality is the best way to make a person realize how foolish they are. It may seem cruel and harsh, but sometimes it's the best way, especially after seeing how poorly this girl did against that Kumo girl, spoke Tsunade, where she looked down at Sakura when she mentioned her, who was still unconscious after her fight with Karui. As Naruto predicted, the fight did not last very long. In fact, it lasted half the time Sakura's match lasted, for as Naruto said, Samui wasted no time in taking Ino down, wherein an impressive feat of skill and speed. Samui crossed the distance between them in under a few seconds, and then delivered a strong punch to the face followed by an equally strong knee to the gut, and then a sharp chop the back of the neck to knock her out. Once Samui was declared the winner, Asuma jumped down to his fallen student and picked her up and brought her back to the catwalk. There he propped her up against the wall next to the unconscious Sakura, who had just been healed by Shizune. After Samui had rejoined her team, the screen began to go through the remaining genin names. A few seconds later, the screen stopped at Haku and one of the Taki genin. Upon seeing her name on the screen, Haku prepared jumped down to the arena to face her opponent. But before she did, Naruto turned to her and wished her luck in her match, which of course made the girl smile, where she thanked him. Seeing this, Zabuza frowned slightly, since given the way Haku was acting when Mai was kissing Naruto, it was obvious that the female ice users had some feelings towards the young blonde. Knowing this, Zabuza made a mental note to have a little chat with Naruto about Haku at a later time. Soon enough, the match between Haku and the Taki genin started. The match of course did not take very long. At the beginning of the match, Haku took out a set of Senbon needles, while her opponent took out a kunai. For the first minutes Haku and the Taki genin exchanged blows with one another with their weapons, and as expected, Haku was winning the battle, thanks to her superior speed and skill. Realizing that he was losing the battle, the Taki genin quickly gained some distance from Haku, where he did some hand seals and spat out several large balls of water at the young ice user. Seeing the balls of water coming at them, Haku skillfully evaded the large glops of water, where they splattered against the wall behind her. After she evaded the water attack, Haku then quickly used the water from the attack to form several dozen long ice needles and fired them at her opponent, who could not evade all the needles in time, and was hit in several points on his left arm and leg, causing them to go numb. After which she then finished the genin off with a strong kick to the face, knocking the genin out. With the spectators. With the Taki genin knocked out, Haku was instantly declared the winner, after which when the knocked out genin was taken away, the screen once again lit up, where it went through several names and stopped at Tenten versus Temari. Upon seeing their names, both kunoichi quickly jumped down onto the arena, where once they were ready Height shouted begin. Tenten makes the first move by throwing several kunai at Temari, who easily deflects them. Naturally, when they saw this, Team Guy were surprised that none of the weapons could even scratch or hit Temari. It was only as the fight dragged on that it was revealed that she was deflecting Tenten's projectiles with her fan. Seeing this, Tenten tried another attack that Temari repelled again using wind from her giant folding fan, before warning Tenten that if she sees all 3 stars in her fan, the fight would be over. Eventually Tenten used her Sashoryu, twin rising dragons, technique. Uncovering the second star, Temari repelled the attack, where Tenten then used strings to reuse the weapons. Seeing this, Temari uncovered the third star, where she repelled the attack again and trapped Tenten in a cyclone and propelled her into the air. Not unlike what Mai did when she fought Naruto. As the cyclone dispersed, Tenten floated in midair for a few seconds, her clothes in tatters and covered in cuts from the wind attack. Soon after, Tenten began to fall to the ground, unable to do anything, due to her injuries. As Konoha Kunoichi fell, Temari made it a point to position herself underneath Tenten, so that she would land on the Suna Konochi's closed fan. Seeing what Temari was planning, Naruto acted quickly, where before his mother, Shizune or anyone else could stop him. He jumped onto the railing and propelled himself into the air, and caught Tenten right before she could land on top of the closed fan. After which Naruto landed on the ground behind Temari, carrying Tenten in his arms, who was drifting in and out on unconsciousness. In the arena. Seeing this, Heir quickly called the match. This match has ended. Tenten forfeits the fight due to outside interference. Victory goes to Temari of Suna. Hearing this, Temari smirked in victory, but when she turned around, she saw Naruto glaring coldly at her. "You got a problem?" asked Temari with an arrogant-like smirk. "Yeah, I do. I don't like sore winners. You had already won the fight and could have let Tenten fall and land on the ground. But instead, you planned to have her land on your fan and injure her even further than was need. The fact you're even saying something like, proves how naive, and how much of a kid you really are, as that is how we do things in my village," stated Temari with the same arrogant smirk on her face. "Really? Well, if that's the case, then it's no wonder Suna is at the bottom of the barrel and Konoha is at the top, especially with Kunoichi like you," sneered Naruto. When Temari heard this, she became infuriated and began to growl, "Why you?" before lifting up her fan. But before anything could start, Heir intervened between the two genin. "Enough. There will be no unsanctioned fighting here, both of you will return to your respected teams now." After a moment or two of glaring at one another, both Temari and Naruto nodded. "Ha, fine. We'll finish this another time," Senju stated Temari. "Anytime, fangirl," replied Naruto with a sneer, when he saw Temari glare angrily at him for the nickname he gave her, before she stalked angrily away to rejoin her team. Before Naruto could go up and rejoin his mother and his sensei, Heiei suddenly spoke to him in a serious tone. "Senju Naruto, given how the battle between Tenten-san and Temari-san was just about over, I am willing to let your interference go. But should you ever interfere with another fight again, regardless of the reasons, you will be disqualified from the exam and you will lose your spot in the finals, am I clear?" At hearing this, Naruto just nodded, indicating that he did understand, and then shunshin back up to join her sensei and mother. When Naruto rejoined his mother and his two sensei, he immediately handed Tenten to Shizune and asked her to treat the young girl. As Shizune began to heal Tenten injuries, Tsunade began to berate Naruto about his actions, and because he had jeopardized his place in the exam. Naruto of course responded that he didn't care, since he refused to stand by and let a friend to be treated so callously, and allow them to be serious hurt. This of course made Tsunade frown and sigh, since Naruto had a nasty habit of acting rashly regardless of the consequences, especially when he believed he was in the right. Naturally she blamed this part of him on Minato, since the former Hokage was known to act in a similar manner when those around him were in danger. As Tenten was being healed, Lee and Guy went over to Naruto and thanked the young blonde for going to Tenten's aid. Stating that they were about to do the same when they saw what was happening, naturally Naruto told them it was nothing. Soon after Shizune finished healing Tenten, where the bun-haired turned to Naruto and thanked him for saving her and apologized for the trouble she caused him. Naruto of course responded by telling her it was nothing and would have done it for anyone else, since he found such displays like Temari's disgraceful and unnecessarily cruel. Eventually, Naruto and the others turned to look down at the arena, where Shikamaru was facing against the Oto Konochi Tsuchi-kin. When the fight started, Shikamaru tried his Kage main no jutsu, shadow imitation technique, but Kin easily evaded and threw some Senbon needles with bells attached to them. Shikamaru recognized the trick and mocked her for using such basic techniques. Kin then rang the bells using her strings to ring a previously thrown bell on the Senbon, starting her genjutsu. When Shikamaru got caught in Kin's illusion bell needles, he found that he was unable to move, while Kin proceeded to attack him with more Senbon needles. However, when Kin tried to attack again, Shikamaru countered by contracting his shadow and minimizing it under the string and into its shadow, and then attaching it to a needle she threw, allowing him to connect with her shadow and preventing her from moving. After connecting with Kin's shadow, Shikamaru then threw a shuriken at Kin, which she imitates. Naturally, Shikamaru ducked backwards to evade it, which Kin imitated. This continued for a minute or two, where each time they would walk further and further back. Until when Kin was forced to imitate him again and dodged another shuriken, she did not realize that she was too close to the wall, where she hit her head and knocked herself out, which made Shikamaru the winner of the match. After Shikamaru rejoined his team and Kin had been taken away by the medics, the screen activated again, where after a minute or two it stopped at Ni Yujito vs Inuzuka Kiba, with Naruto and the others. When Naruto saw the two names, two words popped into his head: "Oh boy. Alright, it's my turn to shine, I'm going to cut loose," stated Kiba. Before Naruto could even say anything, the young Inuzuka boy jumped down to the arena to face his female opponent. "This isn't going to be pretty," muttered the young Senju. "Isn't she the one?" stated Jiraiya, where Naruto just nodded, confirming what Jiraiya had guessed. "What exactly do you mean, Naruto-san?" asked Shino, not fully understanding what Naruto was talking about. "What I mean is that Kiba is about to get as seriously handed to him by Yujito-chan," replied Naruto. "How can you be certain of this?" asked Shino. "Because Yujito-chan and I crossed paths a while back, and trust me, I know what she is capable of." "Kiba doesn't stand a chance of winning," stated Naruto. "Even if she is as strong as you say, Kiba has improved a great deal, and I still cannot see why you are so certain that he will lose," Kurinai commented. "With all due respect, Kurinai-sensei, it won't matter, since Yujito is stronger and is without a doubt the strongest kunoichi in this exam," answered Naruto. "That is a rather bold remark to make, Naruto. What makes you so certain of this?" Kurinai asked. "Because she is like me," the blonde boy answered. When the others heard this, the genin were naturally confused by what Naruto meant, but Kurinai quickly realized what Naruto was really saying. When he did, her eyes widened in surprise, as did Asuma's and Kakashi's, where they remembered the topic of their earlier conversation with Kushina, when they were waiting for their genin during the first exam. Upon realizing that Yujito was in fact the Jinchuriki of the Nibi no Bakaniko, two-tailed monster cat, Kurinai finally realized why Naruto was so certain that Kiba would lose and began to worry for her student. Since if Yujito could use even a fraction of her Biju's power, then Kiba would stand no chance of winning. Down in the arena, as the two genin faced off against one another, Kiba grinned as he was confident that he could take Yujito. "I suggest that you do yourself a favor and give up. Just because you're a girl doesn't mean I'm going to go easy on you," said Kiba, since despite the fact he found Yujito hot, he could not help but feel animosity towards the girl, due to her village's past deed towards his female teammate, and because he could smell cats coming off the girl. Naturally, Yujito did not take this comment from Kiba well, as she narrowed her eyes in anger. At the same time, a certain spiky-haired blonde groaned and slapped his forehead, as he knew how much Yujito hated comments like that and what would most likely happen to Kiba now. As soon as Heiate began the match, Kiba used his Shikyaku no Jutsu for legs technique, where he then fell onto all fours. His appearance also changed, where he began to emanate chakra, his eyes became silts, and his toes, hands and canine teeth became claw-like in length. Once he transformed, Kiba then disappeared in a burst of speed and reappeared in front of Yujito, and attempted to deliver a sharp elbow strike to her stomach. But before the strike could make contact, Yujito disappeared in a blur, not unlike Kiba, and then reappeared to his left. "Not bad, but you're still not fast enough to keep up with me," spoke Yujito as she reappeared and attempted to swipe at Kiba's exposed side. Fortunately for Kiba, he was able to avoid the attack by flipping sideways to the right, thanks to his enhanced reaction and speed from the Shikyaku no Jutsu. After avoiding the attack, Kiba looked at his side for any injury. Luckily there was none, but he did notice that were claws marks on the side of his coat. When he looked back at Yujito, he saw that her fingernails and toenails had become much longer and were now claw-like, like his own. Surprised? As you can see, you're not the only one who can turn their hands into weapons. Seeing this, Kiba narrowed his eyes and decided to go for a different approach, where he took out and threw several smoke bombs at Yujito. After which he then sent Akamaru into the smoke to attack, knowing that Akamaru could find and attack Yujito through the smoke, by smelling for her, while she would be blind. After sending his K9 partner in, Kiba was confident of Akamaru dealing with Yujito, believing he had the advantage in the smoke. But much to his surprise, Akamaru was sent flying out of the smoke within seconds of entering it, where the poor pup was sent crashing into the wall instead. Akamaru! Cried Kiba, but could do little, as right after Akamaru, several kunai and shuriken flew out from the smoke, forcing the young boy to jump to the side to avoid them, but as soon as he did this, Yujito appeared in front of him and delivered a strong knee to the gut. This was then followed by a strong spinning reverse heel kick to the face, that sent Kiba flying backwards and crashing into the wall behind him. TSK, that better not be at Runt, because I haven't even gotten warmed up yet, spoke Yujito angrily. With the Kumo team. Damn, Yujito sure isn't messing about, muttered Omoi. Well, it is hardly surprising, commented Samui, since you're aware how Yujito reacts to comments like the one that boy made. Humph, bastard is getting what he deserves, remarked Karui, as like Yujito, she had taken insult to Kiba's earlier comment. With Yujito and Kiba. After struggle a bit to get back up on his feet, Kiba was soon joined by Akamaru, who was limping after crashing into the wall. Seeing the state they were in, Kiba knew he had to go all out, where he then quickly took out some food pills and gave one to Akamaru, and then took one himself. Once he took the pill, Akamaru fur turned red and the little dog suddenly became fiercer and growled angrily at Yujito. After which, he jumped onto Kiba's back when he went on all fours again, where Kiba did a single hand seal, and then cried Jujin Bunshin, beast human clone. As soon as Kiba did this, the little dog transformed into a perfect copy of Kiba, making it impossible for Yujito to tell the difference between the two of them. After Akamaru transformed, the two Kibas suddenly jumped forwards and attacked Yujito, intending to finish the fight quickly. Acting fast, the young Kumo Kunoichi flipped backwards to avoid the attack, while at the same time throwing several shuriken at them, forcing them to jump away and break apart. Not to be deterred, the two Kibas charged forward and attempted to attack Yujito from different directions. The first Kiba attempted to swipe at Yujito from the left, which Yujito easily sidestepped, after which she then sidestepped an attack from behind from the second Kiba, who attempted a claw strike from behind, where she then caught the outstretched arm between her right arm and side. After which she then swung him around and sent his crashing into the first Kiba, who had turned around and tried to attack her again with another slash. Still determined, the two Kibas attacked together, where the first Kiba attempted an swipe, which Yujito quickly ducked under and delivered another strong knee to the gut. Acting fast, the second Kiba charged forward and, like the first Kiba, attempted a series of slashes at Yujito with his claws, which Yujito skillfully evaded without much difficulty, proving that her speed and reactions were on greater than the two Kibas, despite their enhancements. Soon after, the two Kibas charged together again, but this time they began to spin around and move forward like two high-speed drills, where they both yelled Getsuga, Fong passing Fong. Surprised by this, Yujito barely avoided the two attacks by jumping up into the air. Acting fast, the two Kibas turned around and attacked Yujito again, who once again skillfully evaded the attacks. Seeing that a direct approach wasn't working, the real Kiba took out some smoke bombs and threw them at Yujito. After which they once again used their Getsuga to attack Yujito from multiple directions, who could barely avoid the attacks due to her lack of sight from the smoke. As the smoke dissipated, those watching the fight could see that Yujito's uniform was torn up a bit, and she had a few light cuts on her body. Damn it, how can I fully avoid their attacks, when I can't even see from what direction they are coming from, thought Yujito angrily. The only reason why she was even able to avoid the attacks to the extent she did, was because of several years of intensive training that she went through, where she developed good reaction, speed and timing. Knowing that they had the advantage, Kiba threw several more smoke bombs at Yujito and prepared to attack. Shit, not again, how the hell can they even find me in this smoke? Since if I can't see them, they can't either, thought the frustrated Yujito, until inspiration suddenly hit her. Yes, that's it. As the two Kibas prepared to attack, they suddenly saw a hail of kunai flying out of the smoke through the air in multiple different directions from all sides. Some of them even nearly hit some of the spectators, before they embedded themselves into the wall. She's getting desperate, she's throwing her kunai blinding in all directions, hoping that one of them will hit us, thought a confident Kiba, believing her had this match in the bag. Alright Akamaru, let's finish this, cried Kiba, before he and his partner jumped up into the air, and used their Getsuga to attack again. But what Kiba and Akamaru didn't know was that this was all part of Yujito's plan, for as soon they entered the smoke-filled area, they suddenly got entangled in a web of shinobi wire, where the further they spun around, the more the wire tightened around them and pulled the kunai Yujito threw earlier off the wall. Eventually the two Kibas came to a stop and fell to the ground in two tangled heaps, unable to move, allowing Yujito to strike, where she delivered a powerful kick to one of the Kibas, sending him flying into the wall, where after hitting it, he exploded into a puff of smoke and turned Akamaru, who was now unconscious, with the spectators. Very impressive, commented Kakashi, as he was quite impressed with female Jinchuriki. What did she just do? Sakura asked as she had just woken up. It's actually quite a clever plan, Kakashi replied. As you know, the smoke screen covered the area around the girl, which prevented her from seeing what direction Kiba and Akamaru were coming from. Kiba and Akamaru on the other hand could still locate her, thanks to their heightened sense of smell. But even with this, they still would be unable to see inside the smoke and see what she was doing. Knowing this, the girl then set up a trap, where she tied ninja wire to her kunai and threw them different directions. All she had to do from then on, was to wait for Kiba and Akamaru to attack, and like a fly, flying into a web, they flew right into the ninja wire, where their high velocity and spinning caused them to get caught in the wire and be tangled up in it, since as you know ninja wire is highly durable and cannot be easily cut. Had Kiba paid closer attention to the kunai that she was throwing, he might have noticed the ninja wire tied to them and realized what she was planning. She definitely has good tactical skills, thought the copy nin after he finished explaining to Sakura what Yujito had done. As he was quite impressed with Yujito, since despite her situation, she remained calm and focused and used Kiba's own smoke screen against him and lured him into a trap. Not bad, Yujito-chan, not bad at all, thought a smirking Naruto, who stood over a tangled Kiba, who was still trying to free himself. Eventually though, Hayate called the match and declared Yujito the winner. After Kiba and Akamaru were freed from the ninja wire and returned to their team, the screen lit up again, and went through the remaining names until it stopped at Hyuga Neji versus Hyuga Hinata. This is an interesting matchup, thought the Sandame when she saw the names. When the members of Team 8 saw this, a worried look appeared on the members' faces. Hinata thought a concerned Kurinai and Shino. Damn it, of all people, it had to be him, thought Kiba as he knew what this meant for his female teammate. The members of Team 8 weren't the only ones worried, since Neji's sensei guy was equally concerned since he knew Neji's feelings towards the members of the main branch. This could be trouble, thought Naruto, as after meeting Guy and Lee, Naruto had asked around some things on them and their team. From what he had heard, Neji was Hinata's cousin, as both their fathers were twin brothers. But since Hinata's father was the eldest of the two, he was made a member of the main family, while Neji's father became a member of the branch family. Also, according to rumors, Neji was considered a highly gifted prodigy. He graduated as the Rookie of the Year before, and was said to be the most gifted member of the clan to be born in over 100 years. It was even said that there was some kind of infighting between the two branches of the clan, although reasons for it were exactly clear, it was believed to be because of some old traditions of the clan that favored the main branch family. After seeing her name appear, Hinata slowly walked down the catwalk to the arena. When she went by Naruto, he turned to her and said, "It doesn't matter if you win or lose, Hinata-chan, just do your best, okay?" "Arigato, Naruto-san," replied Hinata with a small nervous before moving down to the arena. When Hinata and Neji were facing one another, Neji told Hinata that she should forfeit, stating that she wasn't suited to be a kunoichi of the village. Hinata of course denied it and said she wanted to become a kunoichi of the village, so that she could become stronger. But Neji countered this by saying people could not change, and that their fate was always decided from the moment they were born up until they died, and that his Byakugan could see that she was still weak and afraid. After hearing this, Hinata's already fragile confidence began to crumble. Seeing this, Neji continued with his verbal assault, slowly breaking Hinata's will to fight. But before he could deliver the final blow, Naruto suddenly spoke up. "Don't this listen his garage, Hinata-chan," yelled Naruto, gaining everyone's attention. "He doesn't know what he is talking about, he doesn't know you, he doesn't know the real you. You're stronger than this, I know it, and he's wrong, people can change and become stronger. All you've to do is believe in yourself like I do in you, you can show him, and everyone else, how much of a retard he really is." When Neji heard this, he gave Naruto an annoyed glance and thought he was being nothing more than a fool. But when turned back to Hinata, he was surprised to see that Hinata had now activated his Byakugan and fallen into a fighting stance. As somehow Naruto's little speech had restored Hinata's confidence in herself. When Kurinai and some of the others saw the sudden change in Hinata, many couldn't help but be slightly amazed by it. As only moments ago the young Hyuga girl was on the verge of giving up, but after Naruto finished speaking to her, she suddenly regained the will to fight. Seeing this, Tsunade couldn't help but smile slightly, as for some strange reason Naruto could always change people for the better, whether by simply talking to them or by just being around them. Seeing that Hinata intended to fight, Neji activated his own Byakugan and fell into a similar stance as Hinata. After falling into their stances, Lee went on to explain to Sakura and Ino, who asked what they were doing, that the stances they were taking were from the Juken, gentle fist, fighting style. He then went on to explain that the style was used solely by the Hyuga clan, and was their signature fighting style, and that it allowed the user to inflict internal damage to an opponent through the body's chakra pathway system. According to Lee, even the slightest tap could cause severe internal damage, hence the name Juken. After exchanging Juken-style blows, for several minutes Hinata seemed to be on the verge of defeating Neji, only for Neji to reveal that he had plugged up Hinata's chakra points, rendering her gentle fist useless. He also hit a chakra point close to one of Hinata's vitals moments beforehand, which resulted in Hinata falling to her knees and spiting up blood, putting her in a critical condition. Naturally, when Naruto saw this, he didn't take it well, and was about to jump in to stop the fight, but before he could, both Yamato and Kushina grabbed hold of the blonde and stopped him, and told him he could not interfere or else he'd be removed for the exam. Naruto of course retorted, saying he couldn't stand by and let a friend be hurt. At this, Kushina responded that she wouldn't let him interfere, as this was Hinata's battle, and she had to fight this one by herself. Before Naruto could reply to this, he saw the young Hyuga girl slowly get back onto her, and prepared to continue the fight. Neji of course told her that fighting her any further was pointless, and that she had already lost. However, Hinata refused to back down, insisting that Neji, not she, was fighting against what could not be changed. When the young Hyuga boy heard this, he became enraged and charged at Hinata, intending to deliver a killing blow. Seeing this, Naruto was able to jump over the railing only to be stopped by his Yamato, who grabbed hold of him again. Just when Neji was only a few feet from Hinata, he was stopped by Hayate, Kakashi, Guy and Kushina, while Kurinai stood behind Hinata and caught her as she collapsed from the pain of her internal injuries that finally became too much for her to handle. "Neji, stop this at once," spoke Guy as held Neji back from behind and spoke in a tone with unusual seriousness. "You swore to me that you would not let you issues with the main family get to you. Why did you and the other Jonins come out?" Neji asked angrily, after being stopped from finishing Hinata off. Does the main family receive special treatment? After seeing Hinata collapse in pain, Naruto finally broke free of his sensei's grip and jumped down to the arena, and was quickly followed by Shizune and his mother, who saw the state Hinata was in and went to help her, knowing the injuries she was suffering from. When they got to Hinata, Shizune and Tsunade quickly began to use their Shozen Jutsu, Mystic Palm technique, to heal the girl's internal injuries. Naruto-kun, did I get stronger? Asked Hinata weakly when she saw Naruto standing kneeling next to her, as she fought to stay conscious. Yeah, Hinata, you did great, answered Naruto with a kind smile, which in turn made Hinata smile before finally losing consciousness. After Hinata lost conscious, he turned to his mother. Will she be alright? Her internal injuries are severe, but they're nothing we can't handle, so she should be fine in a couple of days, with enough time and rest. Naruto just nodded after hearing this, as he was pleased with hearing the news that Hinata would be okay. However, his mood quickly changed when he stood up and turned to look at Neji, who had a cold, uncaring look on his face, after being let go by the guy and the other Jonin. You look like you've something to say, spoke the Hyuga prodigy as he looked at Naruto, who was glaring coldly at him. Why did you do this? Why did you go so far on Hinata? Aren't the two of you from the same clan? She's your cousin, for God's sake. Does family mean so little to you? Asked Naruto angrily. She's was weak and a dropout is a dropout, they can never change, replied Neji coldly. I don't see why you even care, she wasn't like you or I, Senju. She was born weak, I don't even understand why you should care so much about a failure like her. She may have been born of the main family, but fate decided long ago that she was to be born weak, just as it decided that we would face one another in the exam, and that I would win. At hearing this, many of the other Jonin couldn't believe how callously Neji was acting towards Hinata. Tsunade herself frowned at hearing how coldly one member of a family was towards another, but quickly remembered that the Hyuga clan wasn't exactly the warmest group of people. But still she could not help but glare slightly at Neji, as she could tell for the injuries Hinata was suffering, that Neji was indeed trying to kill Hinata. Shut up! Yelled Naruto angrily as he felt his temper rise up. I am nothing like you. I would never try and kill a member of my own family. I would sooner rip off my own arm than do something like that. Fate had nothing to do with this match, you were just looking for an excuse to attack Hinata. Just because of some petty feud between your clan, and if you know what's good for you, you will not insult her again. At this Neji frowned slightly, but quickly smirked coldly at Naruto, she is worthless. When Neji said this, Naruto lost it and charged at Neji with his fist raised. Seeing this, Neji prepared to fight, but just when Naruto was 3 feet away from him, he was suddenly stopped dead in his tracks by Jiraiya, who appeared in front of Naruto and grabbed his arm. Kid, settle down. Get out of the way, Jiraiya! Yelled Naruto, which showed how angry the boy was, since he rarely called Jiraiya by his real name. This bastard is going to pay for what he did to Hinata-chan. Kid, I understand how you feel, but you can't just attack him like this. You're already on a fine line with what you did with that other girl. If you attack him now, you could get booted from the exam, said Jiraiya, as he tried to reason with his godson. I don't care. Roared Naruto, as he struggled to free himself from Jiraiya's grip. As Naruto continued to struggle, the Toad Sage could see the curse markings starting to slowly spread throughout Naruto's body, gaining strength from Naruto's anger, who was too furious and high on adrenaline to notice the pain coming from the curse seal or see the markings spreading. He's gotta pay for what he did, yelled Naruto as he glared angrily at Neji, who stood directly behind Jiraiya. And I am not going to stop until he is a bloody smear at the end of my fist. Naturally, at hearing this, many of those who knew Naruto, like Team 10, the Kiri Genin, the Kumo team, and the other members of Team 7 and 8, were surprised by the level of animosity that Naruto was showing Neji, since Naruto actually looked ready to kill Neji. Not far from them and looking down at Naruto, a disguised Orochimaru could not help but be amused by the whole situation. He was especially amused by Naruto's rage, and how violent he could be once angered, and saw it as a possible way he could use to get to Naruto, and have him join him, Orochimaru. Seeing how furious his godson was and how the curse markings were spreading, Jiraiya knew he had to calm Naruto down before he went out of control. "Naruto, I know you're angry, but he isn't worth getting booted out of the exam," spoke Jiraiya. "Trust me when I say this, you'll get your shot at this shit stain. There is a time and place for this sort of thing, but not now. So, for now just hold it, until the finals, where you can kick his ass in front of everyone. If not for your own sake, do it for the girl. I don't think she would want you getting kicked out of the exam over what happened to her." After hearing this, Naruto slowly started to calm down, as he began to realize that Jiraiya was right. As Naruto calmed down, the curse markings slowly retreated back, after which the mark started to hurt again, causing Naruto to cover it and his slightly from the pain. Eventually the pain faded and Naruto slowly walked back to Hinata and the others, where the young Hyuga heiress was being loaded onto a stretcher by medics, who took her away to be treated further. Seeing this, Naruto closed his fist in anger, where he then knelt down and dipped his hand in Hinata blood that was on the ground. This of course caused several people like Tsunade and Jiraiya to frown and began to wonder what Naruto was doing. When Naruto stood back up, he turned to stare at Neji with a hardened look, showing how serious he was right now, where he stretched his arm out forward, with his fist closed and blood dripping from it. "This I swear in Hinata's blood, I will make you pay for what you did to her. I will defeat you, and I won't stop until I've pounded you into the ground and shattered that so-called belief of yours." "Bold words," replied Neji calmly, unafraid of Naruto's vow, "but can you back them up?" At this Naruto narrowed his eyes and glared coldly at the Hyuga, and said, "You've no idea what I am capable of, team." At this remark Neji frowned, where the two genin continued to glare at one another until their respected sensei placed their hands on their shoulders and led them away back up to the catwalks so that the next match could begin. That's it for this reading. Hit like and subscribe for a free ticket pass going to the different worlds of anime fanfictions. Looking forward to having you on board again.